A big dream of mine is to one day be on a baking show. Growing up, my favorite show was MasterChef Junior, and I would imagine that I was one of the kids in the big fancy kitchen cooking and baking my favorite foods, minus the part where Gordon Ramsay yells at me. One thing that always baffled me, though, was how the chefs never seemed to be using a recipe. It's a common phenomenon in baking shows, maybe just a trick of the camera, but the contestant seemingly pulls a great idea out of nowhere, an idea that simultaneously fits the given theme, pays homage to their culture or upbringing, and tastes delicious, all without a recipe. And I think that this is the difference between a good chef and a great chef. A good chef knows how to follow a recipe exactly. A good chef knows precision and accuracy. But I think that it takes an innovator to be a great chef. Someone who isn't afraid of experimentation. Someone who might fail 90% of the time, but when they hit the mark, it's magical. Now, before you throw away your flour bags and measuring cups, let's take a step back and recognize the ingredients and their roles. As Maria from The Sound of Music, one of my favorite movies, would say, when you know the notes to sing, you can sing most anything. And the same goes for baking. If you know the ingredients well enough, you can truly bake anything you want. Flour gives structure. Butter adds richness. Sugar, sweetness. And eggs help bind everything together. And then there's yeast, sugar, vanilla, salt, and all the little things that really make a piece sing. If you bake often enough, you start to develop an intuition for the textures, smells, and flavors of the things that you're working with. If you've baked enough cookies, you know when the dough is just the right consistency. If you've baked enough cakes, you know when the batter looks just right. I've been baking since I was a little girl. In fact, many of my earliest memories consist of me baking with my grandma, mom, and sister. It's a long-standing tradition in the O household to haul out the big family cookbook at Christmas time, bursting at the seams with recipes from loved ones, and bake dozens and dozens and dozens of cookies for our friends, family, and neighbors. It's a tradition that started with my grandma and then was passed on to my mom. And one day, when I have kids, I'm going to pass it on to them as well. To me, this tradition embodies the magic of baking. It's a shared experience with your loved ones, a gift to your community, and a little bit of chocolate, because who doesn't love chocolate? Now, baking without a recipe didn't come until a little bit later in life, when I was in middle school. I don't remember exactly how or when this tradition started, but to me, that only adds to the magic. Here's how I'm going to tell it. It was 2019, and my two closest friends and I were in middle school, and naturally, we were bored. We all had the lofty aspiration to be famous YouTube vloggers, so we took inspiration from the YouTube Blind Bake Challenge. We picked a secret ingredient, set a timer, and let ourselves figure out the rest. The result was nothing short of a disaster. Our cookies were so hard that you could barely bite into them, and they tasted very strongly of baking soda. They were absolutely disgusting, and we threw them in the trash. But despite the disaster of that outcome, blind baking is something I still do with my friends to this day, and it's definitely not because of the cookies. It's because of the experience that we shared, the fun that we had baking together, and the laughter at our mistakes. Over the years, I've blind baked with many different sets of people, from cousins to house guests, with a range of secret ingredients from ice cream cones to seaweed to flaming hot Cheetos. Every time the result is wildly different. Sometimes they taste good, but most of the time they don't. It's never about the result, though. It's about the experience. Of course, things won't always go as planned. I've failed more times than I can count. My cookies have been too salty, my cakes have been dense and chewy, and my pie crusts have been hard and flavorless. I think some of you in the audience can attest to that, having tasted my many creations. But this is where the true beauty of baking without a recipe lies, in the mistakes. Every failure is a lesson. And in an environment where I'm expected to mess up, I'm expected to fail, bouncing back from those inevitable mishaps is so much easier. When I bake without a recipe, I can see my mistakes for what they truly are, not a sign of my predestined failure at life, but an opportunity to learn and to become a better baker. And eventually, I'll stop making those mistakes and make a whole new set of mistakes instead. This is the magic of experience. It gives you confidence. It allows you to take ownership of your baking. Yes, I've made tons of mistakes, but every time I tie my apron around my waist, I also get more confident, more attuned to the process, and more creative in my choices. This is another one of the best parts of baking without a recipe. You're no longer bound by a specific set of instructions that tell you what to do every single step of the way. You're free to experiment with flavors. You can add extra vanilla, or a sprinkle of cinnamon, or a twist of lemon zest. You can pair sweet and spicy, dig into the deepest parts of your closet to see what you find, or even tinker with that perfect chocolate chip cookie recipe that you found online. Spoiler alert, it's not perfect. This is where baking becomes an art. You're no longer just following a formula, you are a creator, blending flavors, textures, and techniques in ways that are completely your own. You're like a painter with a blank canvas, or a musician with an empty score. So, next time you find yourself in the kitchen, remember, baking without a recipe isn't a step into chaos, it's an invitation to freedom. It's the freedom to trust yourself, to be creative, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. It's the freedom to let go of the rules and discover that you already know more than you think. Because let's face it, there's no perfect recipe to follow for life. Experimentation, failure, and reiteration are all essential for succeeding in life's greatest challenges. Love, family, friendship, happiness, faith, and the things that are the most important to us as humans never have a recipe. And if we're looking at baking for a big metaphor for life, then what you can take away from this talk is this. There is joy in experimentation, in not knowing the next step, and in following the path less traveled to a delicious destination. So, grab your bowls, throw away your cookbooks, and let yourself figure out the rest, because the best recipes come from within. Thank you.